Listen, I served 23 months in a federal prison after blowing the whistle on the CIA's torture program. Proudly. And fully a third of the inmates at my prison were pedophiles. The reason for that is almost all pedophiles are kept in low security prisons. The security levels go minimum, low, medium, maximum. You can't put them in minimum because they'll run away. You can't put them in maximum because they won't last 5 minutes. They'll be killed. And they are killed every once in a while. You generally don't put them in mediums unless their crimes are heinous. Okay, so you put them in lows. Now, in the short time that I was in prison, we had several incidents where one was knifed only because he dared to enter the TV room. And there's an unwritten rule in prisons that pedophiles are not permitted in the TV room. One was sleeping in his bunk, and his roommate, his cellmate, who was a serial killer and doing 40 years for killing prostitutes on interstate highways, took some olive oil from the prison commissary, put it in the microwave that is in every, housing unit, and brought the olive oil up to boiling and then poured it on the guy's face while he was sleeping. So this is what pedophiles are in for in prison. And that's in the low security prison. Epstein was in a maximum security prison. Now, he was there temporarily. It's called MDC Brooklyn, Metropolitan Detention Center. It's a temporary prison in that everybody that's in there is either awaiting trial or is awaiting assignment to a permanent prison. And because there are people at every level, you have to have it at the highest level of security, which is maximum. Well, somebody who has been convicted of child sex crimes and who is accused, credibly, I believe, of being a spy for a foreign government, and who knows presidents and kings and prime ministers, should not be in a maximum security prison, especially when he is vocal about his suicidal ideation. And what did they do with him once he said he was suicidal? Rather than to put him in a suicide prevention unit, which every prison has, they assigned him a watcher, somebody to just watch him and make sure he didn't hang himself. The watcher was an accused serial killer who was being held pending trial on 5 counts of murder. That's the guy that you pick to watch Jeffrey Epstein? So much of this just doesn't make any sense.
Do you think that was set up to kind of let Jeffrey Epstein kill himself? Because now Dan Bongino has said there is no evidence that he was murdered, that he did kill himself.
I honestly
what do you think?
I honestly don't believe he was murdered. And I'll tell you why. If I hadn't gone to prison for 2 years, I would say, I think Bongino's wrong. I think it was a setup. It was a hit, whatever. No. I cannot describe to you a bigger collection of illiterate boobs anywhere in government than in the Federal Bureau of Prisons. The only criteria to become a prison guard are that you have to either have a GED or be working on a GED and no felony convictions. That's it. I can't tell you how many times I would go to mail call 6 days a week and a prisoner would have to hand out the mail because the guard who's supposed to hand out the mail couldn't read.
Wow.
Just couldn't read. So, number one, they're all morons. Number two, as a general rule in prison, the cameras never work. I don't care where the prison is or what level is, the cameras don't work because there's usually not a budget to maintain the cameras. I was a janitor in the prison chapel, and almost every day that I would go in to sweep the chapel, I would have to chase guys out who were having sex in there because everybody knew that the cameras in the chapel didn't work. Just like the cameras in the hallway to the laundry room didn't work. Just like the cameras in the stairwell to the mailroom didn't work. Everybody knew where the cameras were that didn't work. and that's where they would go have sex. So to hear, oh, well, Epstein killed himself and we don't have a good camera angle because the cameras didn't work. Yeah, of course they didn't work. They never work. Number 3, being a maximum security prison and Epstein being on suicide watch, the guards were supposed to walk past the cell and look in the little eye peephole every 8 minutes. Okay? Every 30 minutes in a low security prison, every 8 minutes if you're on suicide watch and you're in a maximum security penitentiary. They were doing it every 30 minutes, maybe every 60 minutes. Why? Because they had worked double shifts, 16 hours, even though the rules say you can't work 16 hours. They were short-staffed. And so what were they doing instead of walking around the prison? They were sleeping in the guard booth. I can't tell you how many times I walked past the guard booth and the guard was leaned back on his chair, arms crossed, snoring contentedly in a deep REM sleep, or looking at porn on the internet on his computer. So no one, literally no one, should be shocked that there was this daisy chain of errors and screw ups, because that's daily life in the Federal Bureau of Prisons.
So you've done a very good job articulating why he probably killed himself. You've done a job of articulating the messaging issue, which is why the conspiracy theories are being fueled from the lack of information. Regarding the suicide, do you think he was suicidal because he was depressed, because he didn't want to spend his life in prison? Or do you think, because you worked in intelligence, and look, I just watched spy movies, so I have to think like maybe they had leverage on him and they said, if you're ever caught, you're going to end yourself or we're going to punish your family. And do you think it was that, or do you think he was just not wanting to spend his life in jail?
Oh, no. It could be. It could be. When you are a deep cover officer, well, most intelligence, and I'm not saying he was an intelligence officer. I think he was an asset. He was a paid asset of the Israeli Mossad. But when you're an intelligence officer, your cover is usually what's called official cover. So you're in the CIA and you say, oh, I work for the State Department. I work for the Commerce Department. I work for the Defense Department. A deep cover officer won't have governmental backstopping. If you're under deep cover, you are, let's say, a wildlife photographer, freelance, or you work for a mutual fund company, right? And you do your 8-hour work day, and then at night you go out and do your 8 hours of CIA, recruitment work. But the thing is when you're a deep cover officer, you have no protections. If you get caught, God bless, you're on your own.